Have you ever wondered how a major power, one that seems totally untouchable, could be brought right to the edge of a total collapse? Well, today, we're going to break down commentator Victor Davis Hanson's really provocative analysis of how Iran's own confidence could, hypothetically, lead to its complete undoing. So let's dive in.
This is really the central question of the whole thing. How does a nation that projects so much strength suddenly become so incredibly vulnerable? Now, to really unpack this argument, we first have to understand Iran's self-perception, how they see themselves on the world stage.
The analysis really kicks off with this idea of a dangerously inflated ego. The argument is that Tehran saw itself as the dominant force in the Middle East, almost invincible, really.
And just look at how these factors are supposed to build on each other. You've got this immense size and population, right? Then you add this carefully crafted reputation for fanaticism and a core belief that the U.S. was basically too scared to ever confront them directly. Then you throw in a massive arsenal of missiles on top of all that. Well, you've got a recipe for some serious overconfidence.
But here's where a really critical distinction is made in this analysis. This whole fearsome reputation, it wasn't earned on a conventional battlefield. Nope. It was built in the shadows, using asymmetric tactics, funding proxy groups, bombing embassies, and hitting American interests from a distance. So yeah, a reputation for being lethal, for sure, but not for winning straight-up fights.
So, what was fueling all this overconfidence? Well, the analysis we're looking at points its finger squarely at shifting policies coming out of Washington, D.C., which, it's argued, Tehran read as weakness, as a total green light for more aggression.
And you can really see the stark contrast laid out here. The argument goes that the Obama administration's approach of creative tension basically sent a message of moral equivalency. Then later, the Biden administration's move to lift sanctions, that pumped billions of dollars into the Iranian economy, which only reinforced Tehran's belief that America would, in the end, always choose appeasement.
And this quote, wow, it really cuts right to the heart of the argument. The perception described in Tehran wasn't just about a deal. It was about the U.S. begging to get back in. And that, allegedly, just turbocharged their sense that they were completely untouchable.
And then, October 7th happened, and in an instant, the entire strategic calculus just shattered. This wasn't just another flare-up in the region. The argument is that this event fundamentally rewired the entire psychological and strategic landscape for Israel.
Okay, so according to this analysis, Iran had spent years and a fortune building this ring of fire around Israel. The bet, the big gamble, was that an attack this shocking and this brutal would paralyze Israel with trauma, making it totally incapable of a real response. This turned out to be a catastrophic miscalculation.
See, instead of paralysis, the attack forged a new, ironclad consensus inside Israel. The nation basically decided, as one, that it could not survive with this kind of existential threat on its border. The old rules, they were out the window. The game itself had to be completely changed.
So, with the old strategy of just trying to deter attacks lying in ashes, a new, much more direct approach rose up from the rubble.
And this phrase, the head of the snake, it just perfectly captures the new strategy. The focus shifted right from just swatting at the tentacles, the proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah, to going after the source of it all, Iran itself.
And the response laid out here is the swift, three-step decapitation strike. First, Israel systematically takes apart Iran's air defenses, leaving the country blind and totally vulnerable. Then, the United States, seeing a direct threat to its own interests, is said to join the fight.
And the American part of this operation, as it's laid out, is just devastatingly fast. In just about a day, a little more than a day, U.S. air power is described as methodically erasing Iran's entire nuclear program, the absolute crown jewel of its strategic ambitions.
So, what's the result of this hypothetical blitz? Well, it's the complete neutralization of the Iranian military. I mean, it's not just defeated, this analysis argues it's rendered completely powerless, unable to project force in any kind of meaningful way.
The scale of the destruction described here is just staggering. Command and control, gone. The Air Force, wiped out. The Navy, a ghost of what it was. And think about this, a half-century of investment worth $500 billion is said to have just vaporized in a matter of days. This is what's being described as a total military collapse.
And the pressure isn't just military. A U.S. blockade is described as squeezing the regime for over $400 million in lost revenue every single day. Just a relentless economic vice grip.
So what's the end game in this whole scenario? Iran is no longer just a weakened power. It's a decapitated one. It's been stripped of its ability to threaten its neighbors, and its most valuable strategic assets are gone.
So after all those decades of building this fearsome reputation, in this scenario, Iran is left with, well, with nothing. Its military is in ruins, its nuclear dream is shattered, and its economy is bleeding out. Its only remaining hope, the analysis suggests, is that some outside power is going to swoop in and rescue it.
And that leads us to the final, and kind of unsettling, question this analysis leaves us with. With all its own power gone, Iran is completely at the mercy of a savior. But who would actually step in to save the crippled regime? And maybe more importantly, what price would they demand in return? It's a stark reminder of just how fast the balance of power can shift.